Let me begin by thanking President Kuczynski and the wonderful people of Peru for hosting us and for their outstanding hospitality. Peru is one of the United States' strongest partners in the Americas, from standing up for democracy to promoting jobs and growth to fighting climate change. And this summit has been a success thanks to the great work of our Peruvian friends. So on behalf of all of us, muchas gracias. This summit and my trip over the past week has obviously occurred against a backdrop of the broader debate over globalization and trade. As I've said, over the decades, our global integrated economy has helped to improve the lives of billions of people around the world with historic gains in prosperity, education, and health. At the same time, when jobs and capital can move across borders, when workers have less leverage, when wealthy corporations and global elites too often seem to be playing by a different set of rules, then workers and communities can be hit especially hard. The gaps between the rich and everyone else grow wider, and that can reverberate through our politics. That's why I firmly believe that one of our greatest challenges in the years ahead, across our nations and within them, will be to make sure that the benefits of the global economy are shared by more people, and that the negative impacts, such as economic inequalities, are addressed by all nations. When it comes to trade, I believe that the answer is not to pull back or try to erect barriers to trade, given our integrated economies and global supply chains that would hurt us all, but rather the answer is to do trade right, making sure that it has strong labor standards, strong environmental standards, that it addresses ways in which workers and ordinary people can benefit rather than be harmed by global trade. All of this is the central work of APEC. As this debate moves forward in the United States, it's important to remember how vital the Asia-Pacific is to America's prosperity. The 21 Asia-Pacific economies here represent nearly 3 billion people, a majority of the global middle class, 6 of America's top 10 trading partners, more than half of the global economy, and the world's fastest-growing region. In other words, these 21 countries represent tremendous opportunity for the United States to sell our goods and support U.S. jobs. And that's why, as part of the rebalance of our foreign policy to the Asia-Pacific, we've boosted U.S. exports to the region by some 50%. Nearly 60% of our exports go to the region. And this is part of broader progress. With 95% of the world's customers beyond America's borders, I made it a priority to open up new markets overseas. And during my administration, we've increased U.S. exports to the world by more than 40%, to record levels. And these exports support more than 11 million American jobs. Moreover, we know that companies that export tend to grow faster and hire more employees and pay their workers more than companies that do not export, all of which is why exports have helped to drive our economic recovery. It's one of the reasons that U.S. businesses have created more than 15 million new jobs. So that's the kind of progress that trade, when done right, can deliver. And that's the kind of work that we've tried to do here at this summit. We're continuing our work to make it easier to do business between our countries, so we're creating even more jobs. In the United States, we're simplifying the process of starting a new business, increasing access to credit, all of which will help more ventures, especially small businesses, get up and running, and helping them to be able to export as well so that they can access a global market, even if they can't afford fancy lawyers and accountants and foreign offices. We agreed to increase our collective efforts against corruption by targeting the bribery that enriches elites at the expense of people, and we committed to making it easier to trade in services as well as goods. We also discussed the excess capacity that exists in certain sectors, like steel and aluminum, that distorts markets and hurts businesses and workers, including American workers. And even as I've argued that we cannot engage in protectionist measures, my administration has been at the forefront of really cracking down hard on unfair trade practices and brought consistently cases against the cases under the WTO against those who are engaging in unfair trading practices, and we've had a great track record of trade enforcement that has to be a part of this process. I've been very clear that excess capacity is not the result of market forces. It's the result of specific government policies, and it needs to be fixed. And here at APEC, we've been taking steps, as we were at the G20 in Hangzhou, to start addressing these issues in a systematic way. With regard to the digital economy, we endorsed rules to protect the privacy of personal information as it crosses borders. We discussed the importance of maintaining the current moratorium on custom duties for digital goods and innovation. And given growing cyber threats, our 21 APEC economies affirm that no one should conduct or support cyber-enabled theft of intellectual property, including trade secrets, with the intent of providing a competitive advantage to companies or commercial sectors. We're also moving ahead with making our economies more inclusive. And one particular area of focus is making sure that women have fair access to economic growth, expanding education, expanding access to careers in science, technology, engineering, and math, helping more women entrepreneurs to access finance and integrate their businesses into the global supply chain. According to one study, if women around the world participated in the labor force, it could add up to $28 trillion of additional output for the global economy, $28 trillion. When women are more prosperous, then families, communities, and countries are all more prosperous as well. My meeting yesterday with my fellow leaders at the Trans-Pacific Partnership was a chance to reaffirm our commitment to the TPP with its high standards, strong protections for workers, the environment, intellectual property, and human rights. Our partners made very clear during the meeting that they want to move forward with TPP. Preferably, they'd like to move forward with the United States. A number of countries are already starting to ratify TPP. At the same time, we're already hearing calls for a less ambitious trade agreement in the region with lower standards, lower protections for workers, lower protections for the environment. That kind of agreement would obviously exclude U.S. Workers and businesses and access to those markets. So for all those reasons, I believe that TPP is a plus for America's economy, America's workers, American jobs. I think not moving forward would undermine our position across the region, our ability to shape the rules of global trade in a way that reflects our interests and our values. Finally, our cooperation with APEC has been critical to our historic progress in fighting climate change. Bringing the Paris Agreement into force, agreeing to limit aviation emissions, phasing out dangerous HFCs. Here in Lima, we continue our work to phase out fossil fuel subsidies, and countries made new commitments toward our goal of doubling our renewable energy over the next 2 decades. So, as I wrap up my last summit, and likely my last foreign trip as president, I could not be more proud of the progress that we've made together. Obviously, the work is never done, and given the prosperity and security we seek for not only the United States, but our allies and our partners, I continue to believe that America will have a vital role to play in creating and sustaining a strong, enduring leadership role in the Asia-Pacific.